Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Tonight, we look at the impact of knife crime at one of our region's busiest hospitals. We're given exclusive access to the Leeds General Infirmary, where staff say they're seeing more injuries from machete-style weapons.
It's a large single-blade knife, which is quite heavy on its own, is what people seem to be using now.
They're not little knife wounds to hands and things like that. They are maliciously going for people's necks, faces, abdomens.
Medics tell us they're treating a concerning number of knife crime victims. Also tonight, the spy in the sky, how police are using drones to crack down on antisocial driving.
And there's a yellow weather warning for cold weather in place till lunchtime tomorrow. Join me when I'll be hearing from the gritting teams in Bradford who'll be keeping the roads safe.
And we meet the Sheffield cat who's reunited with his owners 3 years after going missing in a snowstorm.
Well, there has been some snow around today, especially across parts of North Yorkshire. This was Hawes in Wensleydale at midday. Warnings are in place for this evening and overnight. Join me for the very latest.
Hello, it's good to have your company this evening. First tonight, Look North has been given exclusive access to the major trauma centre at Leeds General Infirmary to see the reality of knife crime. Now, we spent 3 weekends at the hospital speaking to victims and to the medical staff saving lives. Doctors told us they're concerned by the number of victims coming to the LGI after being attacked with machetes. Our social affairs correspondent Emma Glasby is at the hospital for us this evening. Emma.
Well, Amy, this is where the most seriously injured patients in West Yorkshire are treated, the major trauma centre at the Leeds General Infirmary. Here they care for people who've been in car crashes, been in falls, had serious accidents. But they also deal with knife crime here, and the amount of knife crime they're responding to is a real concern to the medical teams. Now, the LGI allowed us to spend several night shifts here at the hospital to get an idea of what they are facing. Just a warning that some viewers may find some of the images in this report distressing.
You all right, love?
The knife crime battle facing our doctors and nurses.
Can you come and have a seat over here for me? Just sit forwards, let's make sure we're not missing any stab wounds at the back.
This is the major trauma centre in Leeds. They see knife wounds here every week, sometimes every day.
Am I dying?
No. You're not
sure?
We just need to sort your face out, love.
The victims can be children. The consequences can be devastating.
They're not little knife wounds to hands and things like that. They are maliciously going for people's necks, faces, abdomens.
Look North has been spending time at Leeds General Infirmary because medics want to show what it's like on the front line.
I feel like it's something that needs to be dealt with and sorted out, and something really, really needs to change.
Saturday night, the trauma team's getting ready for a patient who's on the way. The man has several wounds across his face.
So you said you've had a fight with someone? You're guessing it was a knife?
Sliced on my face, mate.
Fine, okay. Any injuries anywhere else?
Fortunately, there are no other stab wounds on his body, but he's clearly in pain and will need surgery.
He's a chap that helpfully has been quite lucky. So his injuries are all facial injuries without any sort of significant injury to, his chest, his abdomen, his pelvis. So while there might be some cosmetic damage, we're hoping that the maxillofacial surgeons can suture all that back together.
For emergency staff in West Yorkshire, dealing with stabbings is not unusual. Seeing children with knife wounds is not as rare as it once was. Tonight, a 14-year-old has come in with injuries possibly inflicted with a machete. The wounds are not too deep, but he does have a fracture on his leg. He's told staff he doesn't know who is responsible.
We see lots of younger victims of knife crime, unfortunately, we see a lot of times where unknown assailants have caused the injuries, which is actually, years ago he used to say is really uncommon for a child to be assaulted by someone that's not known to them. But we're seeing it increasingly now that young people are advising us that they don't know the assailants. And although it's not that we don't believe them, but sometimes we wonder whether actually they do, but they're scared to tell us who these people actually are.
These medics are probably the ones getting the clearest picture on what's really happening with knife crime and how it may be changing over time.
Before it used to be knife. Now there seems to be something called a machete. To start with, the first time they told me machete, I had to Google and find out how big this machete was. And that gives you an understanding. And most of them are machete crimes. It's a large single blade knife, which is quite heavy on its own, is what people seem to be using now.
I'll try medical trauma.
It's now Friday night and there's an alert about a stabbing, this time in Pontefract. During a night out, a man's been stabbed in the stomach. Ricky is conscious. He's able to talk to the doctors, but they need to stop the bleeding.
He did have quite a large wound on his stomach, which was bleeding quite a bit, so we wanted to stabilise that. We controlled the bleeding and got him round for a scan, which confirmed it wasn't a life-threatening injury. His wound was actively bleeding, so they've decided to take him to theatre tonight, just to stop the bleeding and close the wound.
The operation to close the wound went well. The next day, Ricky is recovering on a hospital ward and reflecting on a dramatic night.
I was in pain, but the adrenaline kept me going until I actually realised how much pain I was in. As soon as the adrenaline had gone out, I was in a lot of pain then. When you see it on telly and you think that'll never happen on our street or that'll never happen in our town, just being a quiet town, small town, not like a city, it can happen anywhere. People need to carry knives, I just think they're cowards. That's all I've got to say on that.
The BBC spent 3 weekends at the LGI and saw knife injuries on each of those weekends. The impact on all those affected is impossible to measure. Joining me now is the Medical Director of Operations, Mr. Steve Bush. Now, we saw the aftermath of knife crime incidents on all of the weekends that we spent here. Is that unusual? Is that fairly typical?
No, I'm afraid that's quite typical of the patients that we see coming to the emergency department here at Leeds General Infirmary. I'm an A&E consultant myself. And one thing that we would like to say, that although we are seeing more and more patients with severe injuries that are coming from the whole region, we're also seeing increased number of patients who are injured by knives with less severe injuries, but the significant number of those patients is concerning.
So what have you been seeing in terms of the picture over the past few years? Is it younger patients who are coming in? Is it a change in weapons that you're noticing as well?
Well, we're certainly seeing younger patients coming in, and it does seem to be sort of getting younger every year. The victims usually male, not always, but usually male, and we're seeing a whole range of injuries that, you know, from a spectrum where people are critically ill from those injuries to less severe injuries, but the fact that they are injured at all using a bladed weapon is of great concern.
Presumably the LGI, like all of the NHS, will be under a huge amount of pressure right now, particularly with the winter pressures. And how much of an added strain is knife crime, and particularly on the staff for whom this will be very distressing?
Yeah, it's an enormous strain, not just about from the clinical work that our staff are providing for our patients as they need it, but also the impact on our staff themselves, you know, and working alongside the team in the emergency department. Some of the stories that we hear from patients who say they've been injured by people they've never met before, and the impact it has on our own members of the team, thinking about, well, this could happen to them as well. So there's a significant emotional impact, as well as the sheer number of patients that we need to look after in the emergency department.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, you can see more of our reporting from the Major Trauma Centre on BBC Look North tomorrow, when we'll also be hearing from West Yorkshire Police. Our documentary On the Front Line, The Knife Crime Emergency, is also available to view now on the BBC iPlayer.
Emma, thank you. And that documentary is a real eye-opener. Next night, a week-long crackdown on dangerous drivers in Bradford is underway. It's been led by officers from West Yorkshire Police Operations Steerside team. They're marking their 5th anniversary and are the only dedicated unit of its type in the country. The antisocial use of vehicles like quad bikes and electric motorcycles is high on the agenda. Charles Heslett has been out on patrol with the officers.
A spy in the sky makes sure 2 illegal bikers don't escape justice. Drones are the latest weapon in the armoury of the Operations Steerside team in Bradford. It's the only dedicated unit in West Yorkshire tasked with targeting dangerous drivers across the district. Set up 5 years ago, its multi-agency approach with colleagues in the council, fire service and the DVLA has got results.
We've removed nearly 2,500 vehicles from the road. Nearly 15,000 motorists have been dealt with for road traffic act offence. Over 150 people have been dealt with for breach of the public space protection order.
Sergeant Jamie Wilkinson has been with Steerside for 5 years. Today he's on duty with PC Stacey Kite. Almost straight away, he spots a potential offence.
Pull him over, we'll have a chat with him.
A driver behind the wheel, mobile phone in hand.
Do you know why I stopped you? Yeah, I could tell you on speakerphone, because obviously it wasn't up to your ear, but... so we're all equipped with body-worn video cameras, which I've got on here and is still recording as part of this incident. So when I first gone and spoke to the driver through the window and asked him if he knows why he's been stopped, his first words are that, yeah, I was on my phone, I was on a phone call, I had it on speakerphone. So I've got that admission captured and recorded, and that can be produced at court if needed.
To mark its 5th anniversary, the team is on a week-long crackdown, with antisocial use of vehicles like quad bikes and electric motorcycles high on the agenda. But its work is far from over.
We're undertaking a week of action this week to showcase some of the work of Operation Steerside. You know, community will see a heightened police presence, we'll see more vehicles, specialist strands resources, partners, PCSOs deployed within areas, really sending that clear message that as a partnership we're committed to ensuring the roads of Bradford are as safe as possible.
What we're trying to do is eradicate that behaviour that's normalised and make it antisocial. In the same way that smoking is antisocial indoors. You know, at one point in life people would have never dreamed that that would be the case, but now it's just widely accepted. And what we're trying to do is get to that same place where people are calling each other out.
Charles Heslett, BBC Look North, Bradford.
You're watching Tuesday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. The World Boxing Cup begins in Sheffield tomorrow. We'll hear from the organisers and competitors. In the past hour, we've heard that Bassett Law MP Brendan Clark-Smith has quit as Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party. Mr Clark-Smith resigned ahead of a Commons vote on plans to send some asylum seekers to Rwanda. He was due to rebel against the government and was told he would face the sack if he did so. The body of a man has been found after reports of a person entering the River Wharfe at Boston Spa. Searchers carried out in the water after the man was seen on the bridge near Wetherby last night. The man's family have been supported by officers. Police say his death is not being treated as suspicious. A student and a former museum worker have appeared in court after the World Snooker Championships was disrupted by a Just Stop Oil protest. The first round match at Sheffield's Crucible was interrupted in April after a man clambered on the table and threw orange paint powder. Edred Ilmari Heath Whittingham denies a charge of criminal damage. 53-year-old Margaret Reed denies attempting to cause criminal damage. A new Haribo warehouse is going to be built in West Yorkshire, protecting almost 700 jobs. The extension will be built near the Sweetmakers plant at Castleford, next to the M62. Around 80% of the Haribo sweets sold in the UK are produced in the Wakefield district. And gold-winning Paralympian Hannah Cockcroft says disabled people in Britain are being almost criminalised in the way they're treated. The Halifax-born wheelchair racer was speaking after the government downgraded the role of Minister of State for Disabled People to a junior level last month. In an open letter signed by 57 sporting bodies last week, they called for the role to be instated.
It's a really scary place to be as a disabled person is Britain right now, and I think Paralympians are almost seen as different to the rest of the disability community. in a way that we are shown for what we can do, and everyone else with a disability seems to be shown or almost criminalised for what they can't do or what they struggle to do. And I almost feel like the statement puts us forward as one.
Well, the government spokesperson has told us the Minister for Disabled People will still be able to help ensure there is always a strong safety net for the most vulnerable of our society, while tearing down barriers so that every disabled person can realise their potential and thrive. Now, campaigners from Yorkshire have travelled to Parliament to call for more support for children with additional needs. They want the government to give more funding to local authorities to provide better education for children who have special educational needs and disabilities, and say there needs to be more specialist school places as well. Our political reporter Gemma Dillon joined them in London.
There's nothing quite like parents fighting for their children, and that's what's driven this group of mums to Westminster today. Now, I first met Sandeep back in October. Her son Guvi has autism and is taught in a mainstream school. Now, she says he needs a place at a specialist school. The problem is there aren't enough places. It's one of the reasons she's come down with her friend Catherine from Keighley and other mums from across the country to spell out to MPs just what the problems are.
It's very draining as a family, I'm not going to lie about that, and fighting to get their needs met, fighting to get the support that they need shouldn't be like that. Should be enjoying their childhood, which of course I am, but then with the pressure of what does the future hold for my children? Will they get the help they need? Will they get the education they need?
A small change today would be to get a relationship with an MP in a certain area that we can then call upon and work with in the future. That would be a small change that we would walk away happy with.
The latest data shows the number of children receiving special educational needs support in Yorkshire is at 97,000. Now, that's risen dramatically since 2016, when 79,590 children were receiving that support. MPs from Yorkshire who were at today's event accept it's a challenge.
We had a special education needs debate in Parliament just last Thursday, which I spoke in highlighting some of the cases in Leeds and actually highlighting some of the great provision that we have got, but there just isn't enough of it.
I think government can always do more, let's be honest, and you can put more money at this, and I think there's a certain strong argument that we should be putting more money into this, but it's about awareness as well.
The government have told me today that investment in the high needs budget has risen by 60% since 2019. It now stands at £10.5 billion, added to which they've invested £2.6 billion in high needs capital over this spending review, doubling the number of special free school places to 19,000 once those in the pipeline have been completed. Gemma Dillon, BBC Look North, Westminster.
Let's take a look at the weather now. Gosh, it's bitter out there, isn't it? And it's supposed to get even colder tomorrow. Weather warnings for snow and ice remain in place until midday tomorrow. Temperatures are expected to drop to -4 overnight. But as most of our region escape the white stuff so far, Abigiola is at a gritting depot in Bradford this evening. How's it looking there? Any flurries, Abby?
It's cold, Amy. It does keep trying to snow, but so far West and South Yorkshire have escaped most of the snow. There was some in the Dales. These pictures are from North Yorkshire. We also know there was some snow in Hawes and Moulton and Helmsley and across in Holmfirth as well. There is that weather warning in place and temperatures are going to drop again tonight. Well, in Bradford there's a massive pile of grit and Paul and his team are in charge of getting that on the roads. You've been busy today already, haven't you?
We have. We started at 4:30 this morning, treating our priority routes. We've treated footpaths in towns and city centres. We've been filling grit bins and multiple reports from members of the public.
And it doesn't stop there, does it? What's the plan for tonight?
We run a 24-hour operation here at Bradford Council. We'll be out again from tonight at 9 o'clock, treating highways at high altitude, and we're back out tomorrow morning from 4:30.
And you are able to respond if the weather changes dramatically, aren't you?
We are. We're in constant touch with our night patrol and they monitor things, let us know what's going on, and we can always change our approach if needed.
So they're going to be busy here in Bradford. This cold snap of weather could be the coldest so far in the winter. There could be ice tomorrow morning, so do be careful if you're driving. Paul will be back with a full forecast later in the programme.
He certainly will. Go get yourself warm, have a cup of Rabbi. Thank you. Now, tomorrow, more than 100 amateur boxers from 16 countries will be competing at the World Boxing Cup in Sheffield. For competitors like Ivy Jane Smith, who will be competing in her home city, it is one of the last opportunities to impress before the Paris Olympics this summer. Here's Mark Ansell.
Some of the best amateur boxers from around the world are heading to Sheffield for the Boxing World Cup. Ivy Jane Smith is from down south, but has made the Steel City her home because of its boxing heritage.
I love being in the ring, I love doing the training. Not so much the running, but getting in the ring, I do just love it. Especially when you train as hard as you can and you give it as much as you can. There's not really, for me, a better feeling than your hand going up in the air once you've won.
The World Cup being staged here is a big deal for the event organisers, who are based in Sheffield, and for the city itself.
One, it brings exposure and it shows what Sheffield's capable of delivering as a major sports event city, but also it's great from an economic impact perspective, but also we're doing a huge amount of work with the City Council and with England Boxing around community impact. We've got lots of community groups coming. We're working with some real hard to reach young people and communities that are coming to watch the event, meet some of the boxers, and hopefully will inspire the next generation.
And if you can't get to the English Institute of Sport, you can enjoy it all on the iPlayer and BBC Sport website. It starts at 11 AM tomorrow until Saturday. Mark Ansell, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Big event, exciting for them all. Finally tonight, look how gorgeous he is. Meet Oscar. He disappeared in a Sheffield snowstorm in 2020. But get this, after a search lasting more than 3 years, he has been reunited with his owners. Isn't that amazing? Oscar was 12 years old when he vanished. He's now 15. The old cat has finally been located and returned home, and Olivia Richwald has been to meet him.
Boy, give him a stroke. This is 15-year-old Oscar. He's feline great to be back home after 3 years missing.
When he came home, I realised that there was a gap that I didn't realise was there until he came back, really. It feels like the family's complete again.
So, on with the tale. Oscar disappeared from his home in Sheffield in a snowstorm.
It was the winter lockdown when we had the really bad snow, minus temperatures, about minus 10 degrees, so we didn't expect him to be alive.
It was mission impossible, but the family tried everything to find him and never gave up hope because the cat had been microchipped.
We walked round the streets, walked for miles, shouting. We did all the things that people say to do, leave out the contents of your hoover, rattle their food, litter trays, all of that. We stuck up posters. I contacted all the local vets. Nothing. It was just nothing. It was literally like he disappeared.
Then at the end of last year, Oscar was found. They'd come within a whisker of a catastrophe.
Oh, he was brought into the vet because his teeth were falling out and he couldn't eat properly, so the people that had been looking after him brought him to the vet then.
He'd been 6 miles away, living in a lady's garden. He's aged, definitely. He's not the confident dude that he used to be. He used to kind of swag around the gardens and own the joint and was quite well known. We've got some answers as to what happened to him in that time, which is a bit of closure, and yeah, absolutely, he's here to live out his last days where he's supposed to.
And that's a perfect ending. Olivia Richwald, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
I mean, 3 years, what's he been up to in that time? You could do all sorts in that time, can't you? Paul is here now. Now, Mr. Hudson, yes. You said there was not going to be any snow, but as your pictures show, that is snow.
OK, we don't do fake news on Look North. I said there wouldn't...
That's snow.
I said there wouldn't be much. Thank you very much.
That's snow, isn't it?
It is snow, and I said there wouldn't be very much. So that's
I think
Castleton.
You've got 4 snow pictures, don't you, this evening?
I have got snow,
there
yes,
we go.
1 centimetre.
There's no snow, he says, no snow.
I've started so finished. That's Castleton. That's a really lovely shot across the Peak District where they had just a little bit. That was Helmsley before it turned to rain around about 0.5 centimetre in Helmsley there. But it is going to be slippy there tonight. Ice is going to be a big problem. The next picture is basically basically sums up Pennine parts of West Yorkshire. Hardly anything but a spectacular picture. Slough over there in the background, some ragged clouds there on the horizon. And the last picture, this was the higher parts of Hawes. Certainly the Yorkshire Dales, Grassington, Settle Hawes have had several centimetres this afternoon, but the weather front that's brought that is inching south-eastwards. So if you get any pictures, if you want to send them to me at Hudson Weather on Instagram, Paul the Weatherman, and on the Weather Watcher website. OK, let's have a look at the headline. We start actually with a warning for ice. There will be a few wintry showers around, but ice is the main problem tonight, with a lot of moisture on the roads and on the pavements as temperatures drop well below freezing point. We're still in the cold air. Tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, it's just clear and it's sunny. 1 or 2 snow showers, but a big change coming this weekend. The Atlantic roars back. You see the yellows bringing milder air in, and potentially some really quite stormy weather. There could be severe gales developing late Sunday into early next week, and I'm afraid we are going to see a return of heavy rain at times. OK, let's have a look at the radar sequence. You can see the whites mixed. It's been a messy one. Rain, sleet and snow. You can see the snow actually even over the hills has turned back to rain. That's going to sink south-eastwards, bringing some showers of sleet, rain and just a little bit of snow. So that's sinking south-eastwards. But as I say, the main problem is behind. With clearing skies, there will be a widespread ice, and we'll see lowest temperatures across the Yorkshire Dales where there is a snow cover, -5, but elsewhere -1, -2 in the towns and cities. -2 Celsius is 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So tomorrow's high water time, Scarborough 8:33, Filey 8:48. A beautiful day along the coast, but it will be bitterly cold. So watch out for that ice first thing, but other than that, there's really nothing to talk about. It's probably going to be cloudless, blue skies, excellent visibilities. The air's coming all the way down from the Arctic, so visibilities are as good as they get. So if you're lucky enough to walk in the hills, it really will be beautiful, especially with the snow cover across the Yorkshire Dales. But look at these temperatures. If you're lucky, we're up to 1 Celsius, just struggling above freezing point, 34 Fahrenheit. You add in the impact of the wind, and there will be a significant wind chill right across Yorkshire. And I think by tea time, those temperatures are back below freezing point. Thursday and Friday, yes, 1 or 2 snow showers perhaps along the coast. Otherwise, it's fine. But just look at that take-off in temperatures by Monday and Tuesday next week. It's wet, it's windy, but it's also very mild. That's the forecast.
Double figures.
Incredible.
Do send us your snow pictures if you've got any, just to really rile Paul Hudson.
Well, we don't do fake news here. I've said it before.
Only on high ground, of course.
Much.
That's it from us. Do keep safe and do keep warm as well, because it is bitter out there. Good night.